Hi, I'm Chris Weiborg, Vice President of Product Marketing from Cohesity, and shortly I'll be joined by my colleague Matt Waxman, who's the VP of Product Management, to discuss how Cohesity can help you deal with one of today's biggest threats in IT and business. As Mohit suggested, we've also got some exciting new product announcements that we're going to share, so stay tuned for those along the way. But first, I invite you to familiarize yourself with the disclaimer language on this slide, as there will most certainly be some forward-looking statements in this segment, which are subject to change as we continue to work with our design partner customers on bringing these new offers to market and incorporate their invaluable feedback. Ransomware. Certainly not the only cyber threat out in the wild today, but for sure the one currently grabbing the most headlines. What not so long ago was primarily an IT issue that had CISOs pondering, what if, has moved to being a boardroom conversation focusing on contingency plans for when and what it might mean to customers, revenues, reputations, and brands. Perhaps those of you in the US have dealt with the impact personally as consumers when those summer barbecue plans got a little bit trickier when JBS was hit earlier this year. Or maybe you wait in line for hours for gasoline when the Colonial Pipeline attack crippled the supply chain on the Eastern Seaboard. White House memos, international negotiations, state and local task forces have come fast and furious in 2021. But for me, perhaps the clearest sign yet that ransomware is no longer just a SecOps or an InfoSec thing and has reached a clear tipping point with regard to broad awareness is the recent segment on comedian John Oliver's Last Week Tonight, where he nails it on how cryptocurrencies and entrepreneurial ransomware as a service vendors are accelerating its spread. By the way, if you haven't seen that segment, you should check it out. But without the kids, this is pretty darn good. But for those of you who have had to wrestle with this scourge firsthand, you know it's truly no laughing matter. And all along, it's been a bit of an arms race as cyber criminals have adapted their techniques. In the beginning, bad actors would go straight after production data, encrypting it and demanding payment for keys to unlock that most valuable asset. Then they realized it was more effective to go after the insurance policy first, destroying backup data while lying in wait before triggering an assault on production. Now, fast forward to today, where the latest trick is now to steal the data and exfiltrate it and hold it hostage with threats of exposing it online or selling it on the dark web while the payment countdown clock begins. Indeed, the blast radius of ransomware has only grown over time as the sophistication of attacks has evolved. Not a very pretty picture. So, Matt, come on up here. Let's begin to break this down for our audience. How can Cohesity help to minimize the blast radius of ransomware?
Well, let's talk about our threat defense architecture. You all out there are facing an increasing number of data sources that you need to manage and touch points to that data, whether it's APIs, applications that you integrate with, or user interfaces. But in the end, the thing that really matters most to all of you is the outcomes that you can achieve from that data, whether that's resilience to natural disasters or operational failures, or the ability to actually recover should you have an attack itself. And so we've created the threat defense architecture all focused around your data. And it starts with data resiliency, being able to have encryption, immutability, and fault tolerance to handle any of the failures that may happen across your environment. Of course, these are all core parts of our platform since the very beginning days. But there needs to be another layer to that. We want to manage access control using zero trust principles. That means bringing in things like multi-factor authentication and quorum for bank-grade level access. And then beyond that, you want to get into the level of detection and analytics against the potential threats in your environment. That means actually shifting left and being able to identify anomalous behavior even earlier, closer to the source of the data itself. And ultimately, all of this lives within an ecosystem that you all have today and you manage across your estate, whether that's for key management or identity management or security orchestration and automation. Threat defense is a core architecture of our platform, and we integrate with all of the major players in the broader ecosystem around security. What truly differentiates this capability, though, in threat defense is the fact that it is powered by AI. And what does that mean? Well, in this age that you saw from Chris of these evolving attacks around ransomware, you can't have a static set of variables to key off of to trigger an alert, as an example. You need to be able to pattern match against user behaviors and access patterns that your customers, your users, may be using themselves. And you want to be able to create the actions that you take against that automatically. And that's truly what differentiates our threat defense architecture. We bring this all together in one platform. As Cohesity, we believe that there is truly a hybrid world. Whether you choose to deploy on-premises or in the cloud, that is really your choice, and we'll meet you there. Our platform supports all of these capabilities through multiple use cases and delivers all those capabilities that you saw in threat defense in a very consistent and safe manner at scale.
So Matt, great, thanks for that. Architectural framework that sets things up, right? A platform that begins to address the problem. But let's walk through this step by step, if we will, and talk about the various phases, right? I mentioned phase one was kind of where the bad actors would go after production data. How do we solve for that?
Yeah, well, Chris, in that first stage, the best line of defense is being able to have modern backup infrastructure. Being able to rapidly recover in those cases is key to being able to handle that first phase of a ransomware attack.
Okay, great. Phase two, if you will, now the bad actors are going after destroying the backup themselves. How do we solve for that?
Yeah, so that phase is really about providing the resiliency around the data itself. So things like immutability, not being able to rewrite your data, as well as isolation. And we have some great new capabilities that we want to share with all of you today around those isolations. So for decades now, we've all known about the 3-2-1 rule for backup. You need 3 copies of your data in 2 different locations, with one of them isolated from that core data center. Most of you are probably doing this today already. You have a bunker site. You're replicating to that site. But what do you do for those environments that don't have a vault today? They may be edge or remote office situations where it doesn't make sense to actually replicate that back into a centralized environment. You may have cloud workloads where they're so dynamic in nature that, again, your data protection policies aren't consistent across that environment. We believe there's a better way to handle these situations, a cloud-based way to handle the isolation of your environment. The days of having tape backups and shipping them to an offsite are gone. We all live in this cloud era. And so being able to actually spin up a vault in isolation in a cloud environment is something that we're really excited to share with all of you. A new SaaS service that we'll be creating, we call this Project Fort Knox. This is the ability to deliver that air-gapped vault as a service hosted by Cohesity in the cloud. And by doing that, you'll be able to run your ransomware detection capabilities and furthermore, be able to create a sandbox where you can actually run drills to validate that you can recover should you have an attack. So enough of me talking about this. I'd love for you to see a demo. So I'm going to welcome Nikita up on stage to show you that.
Thanks, Matt. Now, before we jump into our exciting new product that's coming soon, let's first talk about some of the customer challenges that we're trying to solve with it. To do that, we're going to take a look at the data management environment for the aptly named NextGen Attorneys, an up-and-coming full-service law firm who want to better protect their valuable data and client information without having to spend too much time and resources maintaining IT infrastructure. The first step is to make sure that the production apps and servers are backed up onto Cohesity Helios via Cohesity Data Protect. This creates encrypted and immutable copies of their data on-prem. The next step is to make sure that their backup data is securely air-gapped in a data vault at a separate location and inaccessible to bad actors and ransomware. They could have gone with the traditional approach of shipping tape off-site or a more do-it-yourself approach of deploying and maintaining parallel infrastructure on their own to serve as a data vault. However, both of these approaches are cumbersome, time-consuming, and error-prone, which is the last thing they need in case of a ransomware attack. Now imagine if next-gen attorneys could have a modern, easy-to-use SaaS solution for air gapping that was more in tune with their name. They could put their focus back on better serving their clients than worrying about their IT environment, legally speaking. So this is where Project Fort Knox comes in. Project Fort Knox delivers a secure, Cohesity managed data vault in AWS Cloud as a service. With Project Fort Knox, next-gen attorneys can slash operational complexity and speed up recovery by automatically storing their data in an immutable air-gapped vault in the cloud. They can also recover this data quickly and easily back to a location of their choice, either on-prem or in the cloud. Now, to show you how simple and easy it is to use Project Fort Knox, let me take you through a quick demo of this. Let's start with the Project Fort Knox UI. The first step is to set up a cloud vault. To do that, all you need to do is pick a name for your cloud vault. Let's go with West Coast Vault. Pick an AWS region in the cloud where you would like to start vaulting your data. I'm going to go with US West and pick an encryption policy. And boom, your West Coast Vault is now provisioned. Let's move on to step 2, which is adding Cohesity clusters to this cloud vault. So let's pick a cluster that we would like to start vaulting. Let's pick SF production cluster here. Let's pick an encryption policy from all of the pre-provisioned policies or create your own custom policy. I'm going to go with gold policy here. Review the protection groups that are using this protection policy and add cloud vault stage to it. Lastly, we specify how often we would like to vault data and the retention policy. Click Save and Complete. And that's it. SF production cluster is now vaulting to the West Coast Vault. You can also monitor the data transfer between the cluster, the date of the last transfer, as well as the connectivity status between the clusters and the West Coast Vault. As you can see, LA production cluster has been disconnected from the vault, and you can quickly take steps to fix that. You can also monitor the data and performance at cluster, policy, protection group, and object level. So you see how easy it was to create a cloud vault and start backing up your data. Imagine the complexity if you had to set up your own cloud vault to do this, or even worse, use tape. So let's move on to the most important step, which is monitoring your clusters for anomalous activity via the Anomalies dashboard. As you can see, SF production cluster has some anomalous activity going on. So let's take a deeper look and see what's happening. Here you can see the specific objects with anomalous snapshots, and unlike legacy solutions, you can choose to recover just a single object or all of the objects at once. I'm going to do the latter here and recover all of the objects together back to the latest clean copy of their data with just a few clicks. And that's it. As you can see, SF production cluster now has no more anomalous activity. So that's it, folks. With Project Fort Knox, it's that easy to back up your data onto an air-gapped cloud vault and start recovering this data back to source, all in 3 simple steps: connect, vault, and recover. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Nikita. Fantastic job. Well, I hope you enjoyed that demo and saw just how simple it is to get started creating a cloud-based vault with Project Fort Knox. We're excited to work with all of you on this project as we bring it to market in the near future. As you saw, this solution will give you a simple way to very quickly spin up a vault. You'll be able to do this as easy as signing up for a service, and ultimately you'll be further protected because you'll have a sandbox environment where you can run periodic drills to validate your recovery.
All right, Matt, that's terrific so far, right? We've knocked down phase 1 and phase 2, the problem we set up initially. But how about phase 3, right, where the bad actors are going after the data and trying to steal it and exfiltrate it? In fact, as I understand it, about 81% of attacks these days now involve this technique to try and go after your data. What do we do there?
Yeah, Chris, this is probably the scariest phase, right, when it comes to ransomware attacks. Stealing your data and exposing it on the public web is a vital threat to your business. And we believe fundamentally to solve this problem, we need to converge data security and data governance. And the way to think about that is that data security and data governance are two sides to the same coin. Your data security professionals are looking for who has access to the sensitive information. Your data governance professionals are looking at where is the sensitive information in your environment. When you start to bring these two worlds together, you now have the ability to really shift left and identify those potential attacks earlier and avoid them. And how do we see this happening? Well, it's 4 steps. The first is having AI-powered capabilities to intelligently detect when there's a potential threat, looking at things like access patterns and user behavior. 2 is being able to identify sensitive data and sensitive information within your broad data set that you have across your entire estate, on premises and in the cloud. 3rd is being able to wrap your policies around that. Whether those policies are regulatory-based or your own, you want to be able to get alerted should you have a violation, a threat that potentially violates those policies. And 4th is being able to remediate against them. And remediation is a very important step because it's not just one that you want to take lightly. You don't want to just go into your environment and start changing settings that go well beyond your storage and into your application and into your networking. And that's where we integrate with a great set of partners like Palo Alto Networks and ServiceNow and Cisco to be able to affect the remediation in your environment. So we're really excited to share with all of you a brand new Cohesity service, which we call Data Govern. Data Govern gives you the ability to do identification of sensitive information, to be able to address the compliance risk in your environment by setting up those policies, or what we call shields, and then being able to detect those events and ultimately remediate them. And I'd love for you to see a demo, so I'm going to bring Doug Coe on stage to show you Data Govern.
All right. Thanks, Matt. So let's go ahead and go back to our customer, next-gen attorneys, and look at their data governance concerns. First, as a law firm, they have very strict client and attorney confidentiality rules. So data isn't shared widely across the organization, but rather only with the team members that are working on a specific client case. Now, because of that, it makes it very difficult for NextGen to determine who has access to what and where all that sensitive information resides. And because of that, they're really concerned about unauthorized access. Whether it's an internal source, like a lawyer looking to jump ship and taking files with them, or an external threat like ransomware looking to exfiltrate that data. All right, so let's go take a look at how Cohesity Data Govern can help in this situation. All right, so here we are on the Data Governance policy screen, and you see some common policies for regulations that many of you need to abide by, whether it be GDPR, HIPAA, and in this case, we're interested in the US Personal Identifiable Information, or PII. Clicking into this, you'll see we're matching for various patterns like your name, phone number, address, and other personal information. All right, I'm going to close this off and let it run in the background and continue to identify classified information. I'm going to change gears now and put on my hat as a next-gen attorney employee. I'm going to log in as William C. into his OneDrive account. And what you see here is various client files that William has access to. Now, unbeknownst to the NextGen team, William is looking to jump ship to a different firm and take some information with him. In particular, since he's going to a firm that specializes in the energy sector, he's going into the Icarus Power files, and he's going to download some information here. As well, he's going to go ahead and share this information to outside source. And that's the thing with cloud and SaaS applications. It's very easy to use, but it's also very easy to misuse and abuse. And that's no laughing matter. Let's go ahead and take a look at the file itself and some of the information within there. Now, looking at this file, you see not only is there confidential sales information, but there's also information around phone numbers, addresses, and names of the end clients of Icarus Power. So this is definitely information you don't want to get in the wrong hands. All right, let's switch back to my IT hat and take a look at what Data Govern is doing about this situation. I'm going to switch to the dashboard here, And what you see are some of the top incidents that we're monitoring. We're also monitoring users and their behaviors and the risk profile that's associated with them. Also, we're looking at the data sources and, again, the risks that they might be involved in. Now, if I give this one sec, there you go. You should have seen there on the right of the screen, and you saw the risk go up, score go up, as well as it turn red. And this is really flagging one of our shields. And our shields are basically our ability to monitor that sensitive data that we just classified and match it with anomalous and risky behaviors that various users might be doing. And that's exactly what we did here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first shield. The wide access shield here, the most concerning item are the blue bars. And that really signifies right here on the bottom, sensitive data being shared externally. Taking a look here, you'll see exactly that file that William shared, the Q2 sales transaction. We were able to detect this nearly immediately. All right, maybe William did this by mistake. Let's go ahead and take a look at what other activities we're able to pick up. Here in the insider threat shield, you also see that William had some suspicious and anomalous logins outside of his normal behavior. So that was flagged in the chart up top here. And then in the bottom chart, you see we're also flagging abnormal and anomalous operations. And this could be from anywhere from going in and modifying files that you're not supposed to downloading sensitive information. So let's go ahead, take a look at the last incident here. And indeed, Cohesity Data Govern was able to pick up the download of that sensitive information that William just did. All right, so what did we just see here? Well, with Cohesity Data Govern, we're able to identify sensitive information, such as PII, very easily and accurately. Number two, we're able to detect unusual and risky behaviors, such as sharing or downloading of sensitive data. And because of this, and all the forensic information we're able to provide, that's going to allow you to respond and remediate the situation as quickly as possible. And in this case, you probably want to lock down William's account and have a quick chat with him. All right, that's the demo. Back to you, Matt.
Great job, Doug. Well, we're excited about Data Govern, and as you saw, it really does provide you with a robust set of capabilities to shift left. That'll help you accelerate the time to detect potential threats and reduce that blast radius that we've been talking about today, and ultimately be able to improve your ability to uphold your compliance rules. So Data Govern is available today as a preview. Please check it out on cohesity.com to learn more. So let's bring this all back together, Chris.
Yeah, great. I think, first of all, Doug and Nikita, thank you so much. Some great demos there. And so, Matt, let's go back to where we started, right? This growing blast radius of ransomware. Big problem we know all of you are facing today. And I think as you saw, as we played this out, we kind of knocked down each of those problems one at a time. So if you think about from a product perspective what we have to meet these goals, we have, of course, Data Protect that helps you with this first problem substantially. The second problem, in addition to what the Data Protect already provides, Project Fort Knox really helps you with that isolation we talked about. And the exfiltration problem was solved by what Doug just demoed in Cohesity Data Govern. And so really what we're trying to do here and to help you, our customers, is flatten that curve. And we do it both with this framework that we talked about, Cohesity Threat Defense, that really goes beyond zero trust to give you all the different capabilities you need to solve those problems. And then, of course, those are part of the portfolio as well. So the products in the portfolio both draw from and contribute to solving these problems that are part of the threat defense framework. And let's go back to where Mohit started, right? He said at the top that we have these 4 pillars of next-gen data management. And I think you saw here a number of things, right? Some third-party extensibility, focusing on going beyond zero trust principles, simplification, all put into one. We've added 2 new things onto that product set, onto that portfolio, to really optimize what you can do to minimize the blast radius of ransomware.
Fantastic story, Chris. Fantastic set of capabilities. We're really excited to share all of them with you, and we encourage you to go check them out and check out the following sessions. Thank you.